All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. It is Monday morning, August the 26th, 2024. And I hope you had a beautiful weekend as summer is winding down. And September is coming, is upon us. This is our last week of August. And we're going to be continuing through these closing verses and the closing chapters of the book of Revelation. This morning, the title of our daily manna is The Glory and the Gems of the Sanctuary City. The Glory and the Gems of the Sanctuary City. We're going to be looking at Revelation 21, verses 18 to 21. And I just want to remind everyone, if our ministry is a blessing to you, please continue to help us in any way that you're able to. Please like and comment and subscribe and share. And we do ask that you help partner with us financially in giving to the ministry. One of the things that we're wanting to do, of course, is to sometimes even pay for those extra advertisements within social media, which can put our content in front of new eyes that maybe we don't know that we can share that with. So if you're able to help us in any way to invest in this ministry, it certainly would be a blessing. You can download our app and go to the Apple Store, we're still working on the Google one, but download our app, look up Shalom AZ. Of course, you can always give going to shalomaz.com/give, and then continue to pray with us as we seek to make the Lord known to our Jewish people, to the nations. All right, well, thank you so much. Well, let's continue then. Revelation 21, beginning in verse 1. John says, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. I also saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride, adorned for her husband. I also heard a loud voice from the throne saying, 'Behold, the dwelling of God, the sanctuary of God, the tabernacle of God is among men. And he shall tabernacle among them. They shall be his people, and God himself shall be among them and be their God. He shall wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Nor shall there be mourning or crying or pain any longer, for the former things have passed away.' And the one seated upon the throne said, 'Behold, I'm making all things new.' And then he said, 'Write, for these words are trustworthy and true.' Verse 6, and he said to me, 'It is done. These things have come to be. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning. I'm the source of it, and I am the goal of it, the end. To the thirsty, I will freely give from the spring of the water of life. To the one who overcomes shall inherit these things.'" This is going to be your inheritance, "and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. But for those who are timid or cowardly, those who don't press through, and to the faithless and detestable and murderers and sexually immoral and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars, their lot, their portion, their share is in the lake that burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death." Verse 9, "Then came one of the seven angels holding the seven bowls full of the seven final plagues. And he spoke to me, saying, 'Come, I'll show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb.'" So now we get this closer look. We've seen from a distance. Now we get this closer look. "And he carried me away in the Ruach, in the Spirit, to a great and high mountain. And he showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. Her radiance, or her brilliance, her illumination is like a most precious stone, like a jasper, sparkling like crystal. She had a great high wall with 12 gates, and above the gates 12 angels. On the gates were inscribed the names of the 12 tribes of the sons of Israel, the Bnei Israel. 3 gates on the east, 3 gates on the north, 3 gates on the south, and 3 gates on the west. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them the 12 names of the 12 emissaries or apostles of the Lamb. The angel speaking with me had a gold measuring rod to measure the city and its gates and its walls. And again, we talked about this the other day. We remember Zechariah's vision of the man with the measuring line in Zechariah chapter 2, verses 5 and 6. And then we saw in Ezekiel's vision of this new city that was being constructed, and the man who was in linen had a measuring rod, and the measurements are a significant portion of that part of the book of Ezekiel. Ezekiel 40, verse 2, in visions God brought me to the land of Israel and set me down upon a very high mountain. And on it, toward the south, was something like the construction of a city that's being built, right? And he brought me there, and behold, there was a man whose appearance was like bronze. He had a linen cord in his hand and a measuring rod. He was standing in the gateway. And then again, over those next chapters, he measures the gates and the walls and the inner court and the outer court and the sanctuary. And it's all in preparation for the return of the glory of the Lord dwelling in the midst of his people. After those measurements in Ezekiel are kind of done, then we read in Ezekiel 43 that the glory of the Lord returns to the temple, fills the house. Just portions of this says, then the glory of Ezekiel 43:4, then the glory of Adonai came into the house by way of the gate facing the east. The Spirit took me up and brought me into the inner court, and then behold, the glory of Adonai filled the house. He said to me, Son of man, verse 7, this is the place of my throne, the place of the soles of my feet, where I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel forever. And then I will dwell among them forever, right? So this is where that's happening. And then, of course, earlier in Revelation, we remember in Revelation 11, John was instructed to do some measuring. Revelation 11:1, then a measuring rod like a staff was given to me, saying, get up and measure the temple of God and the altar and those worshiping in it. The word count there is actually inserted. So the measure the temple, measure the altar, measure those worshiping in it. Okay, back to this Revelation 21. So he's got a golden rod to measure, and it says the city is laid out as a square. Its length, it's laid out with four corners, its length the same as its width. Square. He measured the city with the rod, 12,000 stadia, which a stadion was approximately 1/8 of a mile. So 12,000 stadia is approximately 1,500 miles. Its length and width and height are equal, right? So this is a cube. And so that's where, in that moment, we begin to recognize this is a cube, a 1,500 mile by 1,500 mile by 1,500 mile cube. But we recognize it's immense, that this would make the Holy of Holies that had been on earth a tiny replica of the real deal, right? This is the inner sanctuary of the temple in Jerusalem. We saw in 1 Kings chapter 6. Verse 19, he prepared an inner sanctuary within the house to set there the ark of the covenant of Adonai. The inner sanctuary was 20 cubits in length, 20 cubits in breadth, and 20 cubits in height. He overlaid it with pure gold and overlaid the cedar altar, right? So this cube, the inner sanctum had been this cube, and so now you realize the whole city is the sanctuary. The whole city is the Holy of Holies, with the glory of God dwelling within it. He also measured its wall, verse 17, He also measured its wall 144 cubits by human measurement, which is also an angel's measurement. Verse 18, the material of the city's wall was jasper, while the city was pure gold, clear as glass. So here again we see the use of the precious stone of jasper to describe this city wall. Back in verse 11, the whole appearance of the city was like jasper. And now we see that the material of the wall is jasper. And so we have to remember that this was part of the description, a significant portion of the description that John used to describe when he saw the glory of the one seated on the throne. Right? Back in Revelation 4:3. He said, and the one who was seated was like jasper. This word jasper is iaspidi in Greek. It's iaspidi, which is what's used here in verse 11, and then here again in verse 18, and it was in Revelation 4:3. Was like iaspidi, like jasper, and carnelian in appearance, and a rainbow around the throne, like an emerald in appearance. So Jasper, stone of jasper, there are different descriptions as to what that could be like. We'll talk in a minute about Pliny the Elder was someone who'd written a natural history, and he describes these different stones back in the 1st century, so we get a better understanding of what was meant. But a stone of jasper also could be referring, there are varieties of it where it's white or clear and brilliant. In brilliance could be like a diamond. But either way, here's the deal. John is using the best language that he can find. It's kind of like this. Yeah, he's describing it. It's like jasper, right? The glory, to describe what he's seeing. So the glory of God on the throne was like iaspidi, was like jasper. And then in verse 11, its radiance, its illumination was like, when he saw the whole city, it bore the same look. It hit you the same way. When you first saw the one on the throne, it's like you're trying to describe. And the same way the whole city hits you is with that same language. And now you recognize its walls are made of the same stuff. Right? And then in the next verse, we'll see that the first of the 12 foundation stones are made of the same stuff. So that when you see the glory of the Lord on the throne, right? The glory that's in the midst of the city, the glory of the throne on the city, is the glory that's surrounding and protecting the city. It's the surrounding, the protection of the city is characterized by the same glory as the glory of the Lord himself. Right? The walls of this massive, most holy place of this sanctuary city, this massive holy of holies, these walls don't conceal the glory of God, but rather they shine it out. They reflect it out. And remember back in Zechariah chapter 2, when we saw the man measuring Jerusalem, and the passage ends like this. Zechariah 2:9, the Lord says, "And I myself will be to her." The opening of that says, "And as for me, I myself will be to her, declares the Lord, a wall of fire around it, and I will be the glory inside of it." And the glory I will be in her midst. Right? So I will be the wall of fire. I will be to her a wall of fire surrounding her, and I will be the glory in her midst. The same glory that's within is the same glory that's surrounding her. And that's what we see, his glory. In the wording that John uses here is it's like jasper, right? Reflects his glory reflects the whole city, the whole image of the wall around it. Right? So again, verse 18, the material of the city's wall was jasper, while the city was pure gold, clear as glass. So, moreover, not surprisingly, the material out of which the holy city is made is transparent gold, clear as glass or clear as crystal, which, again, reflects even more the glory of God that's within the city. The literal expression is krusion katharon, like we think cathartic is clean. So it's gold that is without impurity. It's clean gold. A goldsmith would heat gold until its impurities rise to the top, and he can patiently remove most of its impurities. But this gold has literally no impurities. Its appearance is like that of glass. It's gold, but it's almost transparent. And so the gold out of which the whole city is constructed underscores the value of this city, demonstrating the way in which this holy city far transcends any earthly rivals. It transcends the gold coverings in the temple. This again, whatever we value on the earth, The Lord gives an imagery, gives language that says that what is waiting exceeds it all. The glory of God, the splendor of the city shines forth the glory of God in ways that stagger the imagination. And then when we go, we're going to read, when we go through verses 19 and 20 and even 21, but in verses 19 and 20, the focus now switches to the foundations of the city wall and their adornments. And we remember the foundation. So the gates of the city had the names of the sons of Israel. The foundations of the city, of the walls, have the 12 names of the 12 emissaries of the Lamb. So remember, in the opening verses, John had described kind of a summary of what he's seeing. He says in Revelation 21:2, I saw a holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband, right? So that's kind of the first impression. The city's coming down, looks like a bride, right? But now we get in close. That was kind of a summary statement. So now we get in close to get some of these adornments described in even greater detail. Verse 19, let's read verses 19 to 21. The foundations of the city wall were decorated with every kind of precious stone. The first foundation was Jasper. The second, sapphire. The third, chalcedony. The fourth, emerald. The fifth, sardonyx. The sixth, carnelian. The seventh, yellow topaz. The eighth, beryl. The ninth, topaz. The 10th, chrysoprase. The 11th, jacinth. The 12th, amethyst. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Each of the gates was from a single pearl. And the street of the city was clean gold, pure gold. And the street is the platea, the plaza, as it were, the square of the city, which the entirety really transparent as glass. So the city's 12 massive foundation stones were described again, having the 12 names of the apostles. But now their materials are described in better detail, and so they're adorned with every kind of precious stone. All of these stones are on there. The 12 gates, right, are 12 like massive pearls. John says, he makes it clear each of these massive gates is formed or carved from a single pearl, which is beyond imagination. But again, it portrays just the impressiveness, the magnificence of the New Jerusalem, the material substance of the square, the platea, the square, is gold, pure gold. So this is where we get the idea its streets are paved with gold. It's pure gold, like transparent glass. Now with the 12 stones, again, Pliny the Elder was a Roman author in the first century. And so we can see how he described these stones, because one of the things that we get challenged with are understanding what ancient folks meant by a particular description of a stone. Do they mean the same thing that we mean now? So he had written this 37-volume work called an encyclopedia, basically, of natural history, covering a wide array of topics, including things having to do with natural elements. So I put on, we'll kind of go through here. And normally I don't get, on one level it could be tempting to kind of zoom through these and just go, I don't know, I did spend a lot of time, which I'll talk about in a minute, over the weekend, kind of doing some comparisons of the language here. So we see the first one was Jasper. So this is, hold on a second. Sorry. Just one moment. All right. So, all right. So Jasper referred to precious stones in various colors ranging from green to blue, purple, and rose. And again, others say it was clear and transparent. And then we have sappheiros, which is like sapphire. Sapphires were described as blue and heavenly with gold specks that made them glitter. Chalcedony may have been a stone that was cloudy with a whitish or grayish hue, perhaps something similar to marble. And then smaragdos had an intense green color, so it could be called an emerald. Sardonyx had tan and white layers, which were suitable for making the jewelry, those little cameos. Sardion was carnelian or ruby, known for its red color, made it suitable for God's presence. Chrysolithos is chrysolite, literally means like yellow onion or golden onion, so it was golden like the sun. Berylion, beryl, had a rich green hue, similar to an emerald. And then topazion, was a pleasing transparent stone, Pliny said, similar to glass, which sparkled with a golden luster. And then chrysoprasos was chrysoprase was golden with a greenish hue, and jacinthos was hyacinth or jacinth was blue or perhaps rose-colored, and then amethyst was a deep red or purple. And we're going to look a little bit more at these in just a moment. Now, in Isaiah 54, so Isaiah 53, the suffering servant, and then Isaiah 54, we see the restoration, and the Lord is bringing his people back. In Isaiah 54, we get this bridal imagery. Isaiah 54, 5 and 6. For your maker is your husband. Adonai Tzevaot is his name. The Holy One of Israel is your Redeemer. He will be called God of all the earth. For Adonai has called you back, like a wife deserted and grieved in spirit, like a wife of one's youth that is rejected, says your God. Right? So the Lord there's the imagery at first of a restored wife, of Israel being restored as his bride. And then in Isaiah 54, the imagery shifts from a restored wife to a rebuilt city. And the language in Isaiah 54 also paints this extravagant picture, this beautiful city where of dazzling splendor from the foundations, up the walls, the gates, to the heights, to the battlements. And so the Lord says this in Isaiah 54:11, afflicted one, storm-tossed, unconsoled, behold, I myself, as for me, he says, Anoki, like intensively, I set your stones in antimony. I lay your foundations with sapphires. Right? So to lay your stones in antimony probably speaks to a black mortar that would have been set in, so there'd be kind of a black surrounding that would make the stone really pop. So your foundations would be sapphires, he says, so from the foundations of blue, of sapphires, we now kind of, our eyes look to the top. I will make your pinnacles of rubies, your gates of crystal, and all your walls of precious stones. And then he continues. So basically here in the restored kingdom of God, the city of God, the beauty, the Lord is going to do this amazing thing, and he is going to be in the midst of her, and the greatest wealth imaginable is depicted in verse 13. All your children will be taught by Adonai. Your children will have great shalom. So that's part of the imagery that we see here, something the Lord had been pointing toward. But the stones listed here also correspond with two texts from the Hebrew Scriptures. First, in Exodus 28 and also Exodus 39, the high priest's breastplate had 12 stones on it, set in gold and arranged in 4 rows. Each stone represented one of the 12 tribes. We read in Exodus 28, beginning in verse 15, make a breastplate of judgment the work of a skillful craftsman. You are to make it like the design of an ephod of gold, blue, purple, scarlet, and finely twisted linen. It is to be square and doubled over, a span in length and a span in width. Set within it 4 rows of jewels. So here it's a square. It's a square of a hand. Yeah? On your chest. And so like this city, it's a square. And so set within it 4 rows of jewels, a row of ruby, topaz, and emerald for the first row, a turquoise, a sapphire, and a diamond for the second row, hyacinth, an agate, and an amethyst for the third, and a beryl, an onyx, and a jasper for the fourth row. They are to be enclosed in gold filigree settings. The stones are to be engraved in the order of the names of the sons of Israel, 12 according to their names, like the etchings of a signet seal, one corresponding to each of the 12 tribes. Right? And then so you can, I put it, it'll fill the screen right now, but I put a just kind of a list here that you can see kind of in Hebrew and in Greek what these stones were called. So in Hebrew, the first one, which we call ruby or carnelian, was Adom, like Edom, like red. And in Greek, when you see LXX, that means the 70 is the Septuagint, which was translated from Hebrew to Greek by 70 rabbis in the 200 years before the coming of Yeshua. And then we have topaz, pipda, and then in Greek is topazion. And we have emerald, which is baraket, and smaragdos in Greek. Turquoise, nifech, and anthrax. Who knew anthrax was turquoise? Sapphire, sapphairos, that works nicely for both. Diamond is yahalom. Now here in Greek, it's translated as jaspis, which is jasper, and so that's how the translators had translated it. Then hyacinth is leshem in Hebrew, ligurion in Greek. And anyway, you can see shavo and achatis, achalama, amethystos for amethyst, beryl is tarashish and berylion, onyx is shoham and chrysolithos, and jasper is yashper, and then onuchion. Continues in Exodus 28, verse 29, the Lord says, Aaron will bear the names of the sons of Israel in the breastplate of judgment on his heart whenever he enters the holy place as a continual memorial before Adonai. Also put the Urim and the Thummim within the breastplate of judgment, so they will be on Aaron's heart when he goes in before Adonai. Aaron will bear the judgment of the sons of Israel on his heart before Adonai continually. So these stones are to be representative of the people on the breastplate, on the heart of the high priest, who goes into the most holy place, and so there is this imagery here of God's people, right? And so even when you look at the foundation stones that have the 12 names of the apostles, but they have the stones of the sons of Israel, right? The foundations aren't either or. The entry point in the gates have the sons of Israel. The foundations have the apostles in the New Covenant scriptures, but it's the people of God. It's the stones that are to be upon the heart of the high priest. There's a second corresponding text to these stones, and this is why. Oh man, I'm looking at the time. Okay, I'll come back to the second text. We're going to do that. Can we just take some time tomorrow to do that, if you don't mind? I don't want to rush through that. But just even hear what we see. Just in these gems. We see that the city of God, which again is like a bride, and adornment, and you go, well, is this a physical city, or is this representative of God's people? And the answer is yes. I don't think it's either or. Whatever it is more glorious than anything we can imagine. We're not to be disappointed somehow if it's not something physical, just because physicality, physical gems are the things that we value. The Lord is painting a picture of what we truly value to describe how valuable we are to Him. But we have this bridal imagery of the city, of the foundation stones. The New Jerusalem is the bride, and is intimately connected in every way with God's people, adorned in beauty. And then we see priestly imagery, right? In the New Jerusalem, all of God's people are priests. They have His name inscribed on their foreheads, as the high priest did on his turban. The foundations of this city are reflective of the people of God, with the names of the 12 and the stones of the breastplate of the high priest. And so there's a richness there to God being in our midst, us being restored, the beauty of all of that, that He is the glory. We are His gems. And it's just this spectacular picture. I want to pause here for today, if that's okay, and we'll pick back up on this tomorrow, looking at the second corresponding image or picture relative to these gems that we see in the Hebrew Scriptures. All right. Well, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make His face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up His countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, shalom. Have a beautiful day.